so welcome back everybody to our latest episode of The Nest. After 21 weeks, we are finally down to 2 teams remaining in the 2022 NFL playoffs. And yes, that means that those 2 teams will be competing against each other next Sunday at State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona for Super Bowl 57. Kickoff is scheduled for 6:30 p.m. ET, or for Pacific time people like me, 3:30 p.m. And we will be talking about this matchup between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles, both the 1 seeds in the respective conferences. And joining me for today's episode are Anirban Chakraborty, Rohan Venkatesh, and Ujan Talukdar. How's everyone doing?
Super Bowl week. It all comes down to this. Can I say more?
Yeah, it's it's the week that we're all looking forward to for sure. The game is finally here. Us Patriots fans have been spoiled that this was almost our birthright since during the Brady era, but it's a matter that a new generation of QBs are here, and it's their time to shine. So shall we say?
Mahomes and Hurts going at it.
Yep,
it's
they're
gonna
back.
be a good one.
It's been 4 years since New England was, of course, in the Super Bowl.
I gotta say, speaking of the new generation, I mean, it's got to be like the youngest generation out there.
Yeah,
sorry, everybody, go ahead.
But yeah, no, you're good. I was just saying, 4 years since the Pats. So like Pico said, like Ujan said, sorry, new generation here. Let's get talking.
Yeah, definitely. And before we do go into this new generation, I'd just like to pay a little bit of homage to the old generation, because Tom Brady announced his second retirement. Obviously, he retired last year, came back after 40 days, but this time he says it's for real. And if it is for real, I just like to give him a message. Just thank you for all the memories you gave and for inspiring all of us for your years of greatness. Definitely won't ever see a career like that again. Just complete domination for 2 decades. Unfortunately, kind of the last few years have kind of stained a little bit of his legacy in terms of not his playing achievement, but kind of how he's been viewed, especially with this retirement drama from last year. But I mean, as a player, I mean, he always did it the right way, and he was just dominant. And Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, these are all great quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts, of course, who's in the Super Bowl. But any of these guys, they have a long way to go to ever catch Brady's legacy. So thank you, Tom, for everything you did for New England and the game of football. The greatest football quarterback of all time. And I always don't like to go with other athletes, but I mean, I don't like to cross sports into other sports. Like, I don't like comparing him to Michael Jordan because they're 2 completely different players. But I mean, he's the greatest football player of all time. And
TB12 is he is the Jordan of football. He is the Gretzky of football. No matter how you look at it across sports, right? I mean, there's always the great one in hockey, but there's the great ones in other sports. No matter how you look at it. Basketball, I mean, of course, Jordan, LeBron is getting up there, but of course, I mean, and Steph Curry's always been challenging him to that. But no matter which sport you look at, there's always going to be the ones who rise to the top, and Brady's always going to be one of those. Now, given that, I do remember going on the air about a year ago, touting all of his achievements, saying that this is it. So if this is really it for him, and that's a big if, right? All the stuff I said about him last year still holds true. However, we're definitely not seeing the last of him. We're gonna see him as an analyst on Fox Sports. So good luck to him wherever he goes, and whatever his life takes him through from this point. Obviously, he's gone through some life changes in the last year. I wish him the best, and I wish Pats Nation the best, and we'll just move forward from here. I mean, it's been, I mean, we happen to be that generation that got to see him through those first 2 decades of the 2000s, and the generation after us will have the gift of knowing his legacy, and the generation before us will also know that what they thought was great in their time was also great, but it can always be surpassed. And what we can learn from the older generation is that when we think we've seen the greatest, we should always know that as the athletes get younger and younger, they've been able to prove newer and newer things. So Burrow, Mahomes, it's, as Amartya said, it's going to be hard for them to match Brady's legacy, but they have a long career ahead of them, and I can't help but think that that's on their mind to match TB12's legacy, and that's just what makes the game great, and that's what we the viewers get to see on a yearly basis, week to week, as we tune in. That's what makes watching football great and watching sports great. Just seeing competitors going at it and trying to outdo each other and seeing the best rise to the top. So I'm looking forward to seeing that over the course of not just the next few years, but maybe the next couple of decades, because I saw the last couple of decades, and that only makes me curious to see how the next couple of decades are going to go.
Yeah, definitely. Well said. And I said a lot last year, like everyone else. So I'm again just gonna say thanks for all the memories to Tom Brady. It's just so many years of excellent play and just really bringing a lot of joy to our hearts and really to all the NFL, just seeing the skill of the quarterback at the utmost. So yeah, thank you so much. And I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot of him in Fox as a correspondent for many years going forward.
Yeah, I was here last year when when the initial Brady retirement announcement came out. I just have to say, thank you for the memories, and hopefully you signed a 1-day contract as with the Patriots, because that's where the most of his career was. Kraft wants it, and I'm sure all of Pats Nation would appreciate it.
Completely agree. Yeah, and today is February 5th, which is also the 6-year anniversary of Super Bowl 51. Just want to throw that in there. We don't need to relive that game because we've done it countless times.
One of the greatest games ever of all time.
Yep. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, let's move on now to Super Bowl 57. So we've talked about it. These are the two best teams in the NFL now, the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. The Chiefs beat the Bengals 23-20 in the AFC Championship game on pretty much a last-second field goal by Harrison Butker with 3 seconds remaining in the fourth quarter. And the Eagles beat the 49ers 31-7. In the NFC Championship game. Obviously, the 49ers were pretty injury battered at quarterback. Brock Purdy got hurt. Josh Johnson came in. He got concussed and had to leave the game. Purdy came back in, but he had difficulty throwing the ball because he had severe damage to his arm. So, I mean, the 49ers basically really had no chance against the Eagles. So let's just talk about this matchup now. I mean, this is a big matchup. Obviously, the Eagles were 14-3, so were the Chiefs, and there's a lot of cool storylines. Andy Reid is coaching against his former team, the Philadelphia Eagles. So this is going to be interesting. So first question, I guess, let's just do it in a panel. What can the Eagles defense learn from the Bengals defense from 2 weeks ago with regards to how to properly defend the Chiefs offense? So let's start with you, Ujan.
I was gonna say that I think what the Bengals did well against the Chiefs, right, was to get pressure on Mahomes. I think, it didn't seem, of course, Mahomes was still limited in his mobility. So, he was more of like a stand in the pocket and try to get the ball out as fast as he could, which, I mean, to Kansas City's credit, worked for a little bit. But, the Bengals defense, changed up their scheme. They played zone defense. I think having a safety over the top for I'm thinking I don't know if I'm actually thinking about this right. This is what the Kansas City defense did. I mean, let me just let me rewind here. So I think getting pressure on Mahomes is number one. I mean, we don't really know what the status is of his ankle. I'm sure it's a lot better, especially with the week off. But I think if you get, like I said, pressure on Mahomes and limiting his escapability will be key, at least for me.
Yeah, I definitely think that the injury to or at least the semi-injury to Patrick Mahomes is less of a factor than has kind of been played up for multiple reasons. On one hand, he still managed to eke out a victory against the Bengals. Granted, that game was marred with questionable calls, and I know we're going to get to that later on in the show. But I do think that Patrick Mahomes was slightly outplayed by Joe Burrow in that game, but the rest of the team came to the Chiefs to help out the Chiefs, and in that game and kind of support Mahomes, even if he wasn't quite at his best. He wasn't at his best, but he was very near his best. And what Mahomes has shown over the years is that he not only is able to pick out passing targets, but he's able to run if he deems it necessary. And against the pass rush, he's shown resilience, and he's shown the ability to evade sacks. And so, given that, I think I would definitely say that for Mahomes, he has a lot of strategies and tricks up his pocket. So I'm looking forward to seeing some more of those being played out next week. So I think the Eagles are going to have a handful to play against. Of course, in addition to that, he's going to be targeting Travis Kelce. That's the obvious partnership. But in addition to that, there's going to be so much more to look at. How he's going to mix up his plays. So it's going to be a great matchup in that sense. So I think it's going to be high octane, high offense. So it's going to be it's going to be for the viewing pleasure of for most of those of us who are going to be at home.
Yeah, definitely. So I think one of the key takeaways is going to be, as Rohan talked about, like, I think getting the pressure to Mahomes, because the Eagles pass rush this playoffs, right? In the two games against the Giants, they had 5 sacks. Against the 49ers, they had 3 sacks. And the Eagles defense is also very good at forcing turnovers. Now, Mahomes, of course, had that fumble, which was more of him just kind of, I think, being a little clumsy, being lackadaisical, where the ball just sort of slipped out of his hand. I don't think that's really anything that was forced by Cincinnati. But the Eagles defense is going to really have to pressure Mahomes the way Tampa's defense did 2 years ago in that Super Bowl. So I think that's going to be the key takeaway. Mahomes can run, but if you really force him to run continuously every play or every other play, you're going to make him really tired. And you're going to tire him out, and you're going to tire out the Chiefs offense. So that's going to be the key for me. Hassan Reddick, who has been excellent this season, I'm looking for him to have a big game for the Eagles, and especially against tackle Andrew Wiley of the Kansas City Chiefs. So I think that's going to be the matchup for me to watch. Can Reddick basically pressure Mahomes and really kind of throw him off balance? And we've seen him. Mahomes can complete throws, or at least make throws off balance, but it makes it a lot more difficult. And I think that's going to be Philadelphia's key to the game. If they're able to rattle Mahomes enough, then I think they have a really good chance in winning this game.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think what Patrick Mahomes really demonstrated against the Bengals, especially, was just kind of that, for as elite he is as a running quarterback, he's also excels in the pocket. I mean, 326 yards and 2 touchdowns on essentially a bad ankle was just really creditable. I mean, he just outperformed Joe Burrow in that essence. And something that Rohan said to me really stands out about him, and maybe the difference between him and Burrow in that AFC, is that Mahomes is just really good at evading sacks. So he got hit 5 times as a QB, got sacked, I think 3 times maybe against the Bengals, but it really could have been 5 or 6 times more. Where how many times we saw the Bengals pass rush break right through, and just as he's about to fall down, he just manages to get rid of the ball. Like he evaded like 5 or 6 sacks at least that way. And that just adds up, because instead of getting a 3rd and 10, you would have gone maybe a 3rd and like 18 or 3rd and 19. They then convert. So I think the Eagles pass rush has really demonstrated against the Niners that they are, of course, elite. They have 4 of their 5 pass rushers are double-digit sacks. It's incredible, but it's not just getting to Mahomes, because the Bengals did that too. It's actually getting him down. And that's what I think is going to be the big challenge for them. And the other thing we see is that Patrick Mahomes really demonstrated in this game an ability to elevate the players around him in a really exciting way. And I mean, you think about Kadarius Toney, McCole Hardman, Juju Smith-Schuster, they were all out. I mean, they all got hurt throughout various aspects of this game, but all ending with less than like 1 or 2 completions. Marcus Valdes-Scantling at 116 yards, right? He got Pacheco involved 50 plus yards in receiving. Even that, again, Marcus Kemp, who was off the practice squad, if I'm not mistaken, got his hand in the game. And I think that's the thing that's so dangerous about Mahomes. Like, obviously, Travis Kelce is going to merit a lot of attention from the Eagles secondary, but I think in this game, Mahomes really showed a strong ability that whoever's receiving, whether it's an elite receiver like Juju Smith, or maybe someone who's up and coming like Marcus Kemp, he can get them the ball if they get open. And I think that's going to be the biggest challenge for the Eagles.
Very good. Yeah, good discussion here. So let's move on to our second question, which is kind of just the reversal, right? So what can the Chiefs defense learn from the 49ers defense last Sunday with regards to how to kind of properly defend the Eagles offense? Rohan, let's start with you here.
Yeah, on this one, I would say that there's not really a lot to learn from the 49ers defense because the Eagles pretty much had their way. A 31-7 shellacking in the NFC Championship. I mean I think what this really shows is the strength of the Eagles offense rather than any kind of weakness on part of on the 49ers defense. So I guess for the Chiefs, what to look out for here is not really what did the Niners defense do wrong, but really how can we play against the elites of of the Eagles offense, right? So for the Chiefs defense, not only I mean the obvious threat's gonna be Jalen Hurts. That's the obvious one. But if they do decide to mix it up, I mean, if the Eagles do decide to mix up their pass game and their run game, then it's really going to come down to guarding against Boston Scott, who's basically been red hot right now, and Miles Sanders, who basically pretty much been almost the entirety of the Eagles' run game. So that's another thing to insert into there. But if you really look at it, though, it's really going to come down to not really stopping Jalen Hurts, but containing him. Similar to how on the flip side for the Eagles defense, it's not really going to come down to stopping Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes. It's going to just be going to come down to containing them to a level where your offense is going to have a decent shot at matching their total. So because I think it's only I think it's almost safe to say that those pairings they're going to score at least a couple of TDs either way. So given the fact that I think that this is going to be a high scoring offensive game, I think that whatever small victories the defense can grab, I think that's going to be the difference in this one.
All right. Well, the thing for me is right. The Eagles can have a really good running game and a really good passing game. AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Rohan touched on the running game. Like Dallas Goedert and the tight end. He's pretty much I wouldn't say the equivalent of Travis Kelce, but like position wise, we're talking about like as a safety valve, like the tight end option is there, right? But I think what the 49ers did decently on like at least for bits and pieces, I'll say, is the passing game. Like, is the pass defense? I don't think was that bad because all the Eagles touchdowns came on the ground. Like, it's not. I mean, there was the 4th and 3 where Devontae Smith supposedly caught the ball. I say supposedly because I don't think that was a catch. He got rid of. I mean, he lost control as the ball hit the ground on the opening drive, if I recall correctly. So, but AJ Brown was he had a few catches, but wasn't really a huge factor. But after that 4th down play, Devontae Smith wasn't really a factor. It was the 49ers just couldn't really stop the run, and that was kind of surprising considering you have Nick Bosa even though he was hurt on a play where he wasn't even on the field for. You have to wonder how much that was a factor. But all that aside, I think if if Philadelphia is held to just either like a running game and not a passing game, or vice versa, I think the Chiefs have a chance.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. I mean, Jalen Hurts was 15 for 25 with sub 150 yards, 64.4 passer rating, if I believe, so, or QBR. So this wasn't a game which Jalen Hurts took by the scruff of the neck. It was more like Ujan said, I mean, 4 rushing touchdowns on the ground, Miles Sanders, Kenneth Gainwell, Boston Scott. And when I look at that, I mean, the Eagles had under 300 yards of offense and they still put up 30 plus points. I mean, that's pretty unusual actually. And when you look at like kind of the game, how that transpired, I think one case is that the few that they had, they were just very efficient at running. Like they didn't the Eagles didn't really leave points on the board with long drives, if that makes sense. They didn't have to settle for field goals. They didn't really get turned over as much. If they got punts like they did like in the first half when the Niners for the first 3 or 4 drives actually contained them pretty well. In that case, it was out in like a couple like 10, 11 yards, not much. But if the Eagles got down the field, they were efficient. They were able to finish off plays in the red zone. And I think that's what the Chiefs defense needs to kind of really be looking out for, because on this game, the Eagles showed that they can punish teams on the ground, and that having that trifecta of Sanders, Gainwell, and Boston Scott, I think that's going to be really influential because we all know Jalen Hurts can run too, but part of the Eagles' strength is just how deep their running back committee is, and they put that in full display against the 49ers.
Yeah, I would also just say, like, I think part of the reason what happened to the 49ers defense is they were probably also very tired because pretty much in the second half, after like it was revealed that Purdy really couldn't throw the ball at all, the 49ers essentially had to run the ball and pretty much just had 3 and outs for the most part. So because of that, like I think that the 49ers just defense had to continuously come back on the field and they were just sort of tired at the end. So that's probably also what played into the Eagles' strategy of just being able to run the ball because they knew the 49ers offense wasn't going to be able to score. So I wouldn't really put that as much on the 49ers defense that they weren't able to stop the run because I think they were probably more tired at the end. But that said, the Chiefs' run defense isn't that great either. So I think that's going to be a key strategy. But like, I mean, I think it's going to go back to like that Super Bowl from 3 years ago when it was the 49ers and the Chiefs. And the 49ers run game was kind of able to lead the game for 3 quarters. But in the fourth quarter, Mahomes figured out the 49ers defense and pretty much this Chiefs scored like I think 21 points in that final quarter to win that game. So I think that's sort of what's going to be happening here. Like this is basically the best quarterback the Eagles have faced easily, right? I mean, Daniel Jones and Brock Purdy and Josh Johnson. And also just worth noting, one of the Eagles touchdowns right before the half was because Josh Johnson fumbled that snap and gave the ball at the 49ers 30-yard line. So the 49ers like kind of were a little sloppy at the end and basically were kind of forced in a very unfortunate situation. So I think that the Chiefs defense is going to really need to just make sure to pressure Jalen Hurts and really try to like their best to cover AJ Brown. And you can't obviously cover all 3 of them, but I mean, really try to focus on limiting the passing game and force them to run the ball because I think that's the Chiefs' key to victory, actually, allowing the Eagles to run and basically take away the passing game. Because if you force them to run and heavily, then I think the Chiefs had their best shot at winning this game, actually. It's through forcing the Eagles to run because I don't think you're going to be able to beat Patrick Mahomes by running the ball. You're going to have to beat him by throwing. So if you take that away, then that's an advantage for the Chiefs too. So yeah, that's sort of how I sort of look at it. So I guess the next questions, we can kind of merge them together a little bit, but like for the Eagles, like which skill players on the Eagles offense to the Chiefs defense need the best game plan for? So I guess for this one, we can just kind of list out one player each and the fourth question is the reverse. So yeah, Anirban, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think I can handle both of them at the same time because they're pretty complementary. I mean, on the Eagles, I do think Miles Sanders is kind of a hidden factor. I mean, he's had a bit of an up and down career in Philadelphia, but I think this season at least he was able to kind of establish himself as a top back in the league. And I think, 2 touchdowns against the Niners, albeit with your circumstances, he's going to be someone to watch out for. In terms of the Kansas City Chiefs, I do want to go a little outside the box and say Isaiah Pacheco has also really risen as an extremely skilled player that the Chiefs have because of his ability to really extend plays with his strength. He kind of plays a little like Ramondre Stevenson, in my opinion, after watching Ramondre, where you just see him be really fast, really agile. But if you try to get him down, he can just shake you off and go for another 10, 15 yards. And we saw that actually against the Bengals. He had 50 plus receiving yards on top of that. He's a multi-dimensional weapon that, coupled with Patrick Mahomes, is going to be a huge problem, especially when you have Travis Kelce and maybe if Juju and McColl and the others are healthy by then. So Isaiah Pacheco and Miles Sanders in the running games are going to be, for me, the big guys.
Yeah, just one quick question. In the document or what I was talking about for the Chiefs, the question is besides Travis Kelce, because that's the obvious one. So which player besides Travis Kelce on the Chiefs offense?
Yeah, Isaiah Pacheco.
Yeah, sure. I know. But yeah, because that's an easy one. So yeah. Okay. Anyways, Rohan, let's hear yours.
I'm kind of torn here. I mean, do I go with Juju Smith-Schuster or do I go with Justin Watson? I mean, both are wild cards if Mahomes wants to diversify his targets. I mean, with Schuster, I mean, he's basically, a wide receiver Justin Watson also another target potentially out there. I do think that Mahomes is going to pick Kelsey most of the time, but if the Eagles concentrate most of their defensive capital against Travis Kelsey, I think they're going to be making a huge mistake by leaving those two open.
For me, right, I would, as for the from the Eagles standpoint, you know, everyone talks about Miles Sanders, but I'm actually gonna go with AJ Brown. You know, I think he's a receiver who has, you know, has a size advantage on most of the Kansas City secondary. So, you know, if Jalen Hurts keeps getting the ball to AJ Brown, I think that's a significant advantage for Philadelphia, especially with the running game they already have. As for Kansas City, I will say that you know, everyone talks about Isaiah Pacheco. I'm gonna say Jerick McKinnon because, you know, he's a threat he's a receiving threat, kind of like a James White, if you will, from years gone by. You know, he had so many games this regular season with a receiving touchdown. Had a rushing touchdown against Houston when Kansas City played them, and well, that game went to overtime, and McKinnon got the winning touchdown. So I think, you know, he like Kelsey is a safety valve for Mahomes when they're both on the field. So I think, you know, both these offenses are dynamic, and I'm going with those two guys as to, you know, who can be an X factor for both teams.
Good choices. Yeah, everyone has pretty good choices here. Very different choices too, which is good. For me, it's going to be Devontae Smith for Philadelphia. AJ Brown is the top receiver in Philadelphia, but Devontae Smith had a terrific year. 1192 yards this season with 7 touchdowns, 95 catches. Just an outstanding season. So I think, especially if the Chiefs defense, which is also kind of shaky in a way, if they sort of double cover AJ Brown, then I think Devontae Smith is going to have a big game. So that's sort of the player I think the Chiefs defense also needs to be very careful of. And for the Chiefs offense, in terms of Philly's defense, I'm going to go with Marquez Valdes-Scantling. I mean, 6 catches, 116 yards. He just kind of came out of nowhere to have that performance. So, I mean, I think Mahomes has just kind of shown as if he zones in on a guy, this is kind of what Brady sort of used to do. He can zone in on a guy, even if that guy isn't a star, he'll make sure that that guy, if he's reliable and can catch the ball, will have a big game. So that's kind of the player I'll be looking out for because Juju Smith-Schuster is injured. So is Mecole Hardman. And I think they will be ready to play. But I think Valdes-Scantling riding off of a huge performance in the AFC Championship game, that's sort of the player I think Philly needs to also be careful of, besides Travis Kelsey. That's the obvious one. So, yeah, I mean, Noah Nearbon is about to head out. So I'm just, I guess, just give your prediction, I guess, on who's going to win Super Bowl 57. The rest of us, the 3 of us, will give our prediction at the end of the episode. But since the Nearbon has to head out, yeah, what's your prediction for Super Bowl 57?
Great, yeah. So thank you. Yep, sorry, I do have to head out, but right before I do, I'm going to say I'll be probably seeing the Chiefs lift the Lombardi Trophy for the second ring for Patrick Mahomes. I think it's going to be a big scoring game, probably 31-24 Chiefs with Isaiah Pacheco having a game-winning touchdown. And thanks, everyone.
Who wins
I'll
MVP?
see you all.
Who wins the game MVP?
MVP will have to be Patrick Mahomes. He's going to throw 300 plus yards on a bad angle, so that's him.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Yep. Have a good one. All right. Okay. And all right. So yeah, let's move on to the next question now. We've talked about Patrick Mahomes' ankle sprain, kind of a perfect segue, actually. So do you guys think that Mahomes' ankle sprain will hinder him against Philadelphia? I think, Rohan, you've already kind of talked about it a little bit, but do you want to just sort of elaborate a little bit more on your point? You're on mute, by the way.
Yeah, with that one, I would definitely say that I wouldn't say that it's a non-factor, but at the same time, I don't think it's as big of a factor as it's played up to be. He did hold his own against the Bengals. Granted, it was a close game, and granted, I will also say that he was slightly outplayed, but he did decline the opportunity to take painkillers before that game, and he did. But however, he did have the benefit of having some calls go the Chiefs' way that game as well. But in addition to what I said earlier about how he's able to resist the pass rush, He's shown versatility. Both when he's when he's got to pass, and if he doesn't have passing options, he's shown his ability to run. Now his ability to run might be slightly diminished just for the obvious fact that that he might have a leg injury, but if he can throw it in there every once in a while when the Eagles defense isn't expecting, I think that this perceived disadvantage can be minimized enough to a level where the Chiefs are going to be competitive. I think no matter what comes up, no matter what comes their way.
I think it will. I think it'll be less of a factor this time because this time Mahomes has the week off to recover. I say from the divisional to the championship game, he had just 8 days, right? And now he has 14 days between games. So I think that it's like having a bye week in between, like in the regular season, right? It's like that, if you will. None of these guys are playing in the Pro Bowl games because they're participating in the Super Bowl. So I think we may see his ability to may see him run, I should say, more against Philadelphia, but it all depends on the game plan. Even the times he was scrambling, like getting out of the pocket, it didn't seem like he was hobbling like during the play, but like after the play was over, like going back to the huddle, that's when you saw he was a little bit gimpy at times. So I do think that there is a possibility that he won't. Kansas City will have a similar game plan against Philadelphia like they did in the AFC Championship game.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it'll impact him really at all. Like you might see him hobbled up. Yeah, but I mean, in terms of performance, I think he'll be fine. Like, I don't think it'll impact him the way it impacted him against Cincinnati, where he was hobbled, but I mean, he still threw a touchdown pass to Valdez-Scantling, which was probably the most impressive play of the game to me, considering he was like injured, clearly injured, obviously injured, and then he like just threw a great pass to Valdez-Scantling, a perfect pass. So I don't think it'll impact him at all. I think this extra week is going to be huge for him. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised, besides just showing a limp from time to time, he looks like the same old Patrick Mahomes. So I don't think it will really impact him. And if the Chiefs lose, I don't think it will be because of this. So next question about Mahomes again. So, I mean, his resume at this point is extremely impressive. I mean, he's 27 years old. He has a Super Bowl MVP. He's won a Super Bowl. He has a regular season MVP, likely winning his second MVP this season. And now it's actually his third Super Bowl appearance. Of course, he lost in 2020 to the Buccaneers. But where do you kind of put his legacy right now? And how does that legacy change with a win or a loss in this game?
He's the next TB12. I'm going to leave it at that. Just give it another 15 years.
So when you say next TB12, you mean like he's going to, like, how many, like, so you think he'll be like able to match the 7 Super Bowls?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He already has one. So that means I'm going to go on a limb and say he's going to win at least 6 in the next 15 years.
I mean, that's certainly a possibility, but and how much longer? I think it just depends on a few things. Andy Reid's not going to coach forever, right? So I think when Andy Reid leaves, is he going to whoever comes in next? Well, is he going to have a similar offensive coaching style, or is it going to be completely different? I think that's one factor. I mean, we all know that Patrick Mahomes is a great athlete. He has a strong arm, all this, right? Then as guys come and go, we thought that Tyreek Hill would be a big absence, big loss for Kansas City, but in the first year that Hill leaves, the Kansas City's in the Super Bowl, and Miami was out in the wild card round. So I don't think it just shows that Mahomes doesn't really necessarily need star receivers. Yes, he has Travis Kelce, but all these guys who are up and coming and who have prior experience, like Juju Smith-Schuster, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, I would even argue Kadarius Toney too. Like, we haven't really spoke much about him. So I would say that, Mahomes is definitely going to be up there in terms of, this is I personally believe that this is not his last Super Bowl appearance. He's already been to 5 AFC Championship games, and all of them were in his years as a start, and that's how many years he's been starting. So it's already an unbelievable record. So I do think that, I wouldn't say he'll get 6 more. I would say perhaps, I think 4 or 5 for sure. If he does get a 6th, then kudos to him, I'll say.
Wow. I mean, he's on a terrific track. Just for reference, though, right? Like at the age of 27, Tom Brady at the age of 27 was 3-0 in the Super Bowl. So I mean, essentially, he's played in. This is going to be his 3rd Super Bowl at the age of 27, and with a win, he'd be 2-1. So just slightly behind Brady. I think what we've seen though is just over time, when it comes to like roster construction, like right now he's relying heavily on Travis Kelce. But I guess it's also just going to. I mean, I don't know. Like the long-term thing is just hard to picture, right, for anyone. So I'm not. I don't want to like. I don't know. Like, I mean, I think I agree. I think he'll probably
receivers come and go though. I mean, like back in the day for TB12, it was Randy Moss, and then it was Gronk. So I mean that evolves. But go ahead.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, I mean, I think that's sort of like what we'll see, sort of how Mahomes sort of evolves his game over time. He's also been battling some serious injuries over the years, which is one thing Brady was pretty good with. Besides 2008, of course, he missed a season with a torn ACL, but Mahomes has kind of missed. Like he's definitely dealt with a lot more serious injuries, and he is a great player. So I don't know if he'll be able to handle like 15 more years of this, where he's running around. Especially as you get older, it's harder to recover. So I think in terms of his legacy right now, I'll answer that question more. With a win, he's pretty much on the track to the GOAT status. He still has a ways to go, but I mean, at that point, he's 2-1 in the Super Bowl, and I think he's well on the track. A loss would kind of derail him, but I still think he can achieve it. But I mean, definitely being 1-2 in the Super Bowl would not be good. But I mean, that's what Peyton Manning was actually after 3 Super Bowls. He was also 1-2, and then he finished with another Super Bowl. So to finish 2-2, so I don't know.
Well, that's just adversity though, and there's another piece of adversity that someone else had, and that was being drafted in the 6th round, and we all know how that ended up.
Yeah, but like, I mean, if you're battling serious injuries every year, then eventually those injuries end up leading to like kind of an earlier decline, right? That's just sort of how it works, right, in sports. So if every year,
I wouldn't say that this is a permanent decline though. I think whatever he's facing right now in terms of injuries is something that's very recoverable. Obviously, I hope he fully recovers, but the way it looks right now, it doesn't look like it's too serious.
Again, right? But that's what happens early in your career. It's easy to recover from these injuries because you're younger, right? But it just happens, right? Like Cam Newton, right? All these years,
and then with experience, of course, players get better at evading these things, and that just comes with being older, being wiser, and having more experience.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure if he'll play 15 more years for sure. It's hard to forecast any of this, but I think he'll be around and probably. I mean, I don't know if I'd put anyone to get to 6. Just for reference, like besides Brady, like in the Brady era. So I'm talking about like other quarterbacks who played in that era. No other quarterback finished with more than 2. That was like Eli Manning, Ben Roethlisberger, Peyton Manning. So say Mahomes, like I don't know if I can forecast him to just be locked in for 5 Super Bowls. Like I wouldn't be able to do that for anyone at this point. So we'll see. I mean, we'll see how the future goes, but 4 or 5 Super Bowls, like I can't really project that for anyone right now. And at some point, you'd think Buffalo probably overcomes the hump and finally beats him. Burrow's going to be around for a while, challenging him. So
yeah, the next generation, it's going to be. I mean, the top tier quarterbacks are going to be Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, and Josh Allen. Let's not forget Josh Allen. I mean, I think he's gonna give Patrick Mahomes a good run for his money. I mean, obviously they ducked out pretty early on this year, but the Bills, obviously I was wrong about this year. I had them winning it all, but I'm gonna stick with them for next year, and I think they're gonna win it all next year. Because I just think that they're too good of a team to not win anything. I mean, you can only be unlucky for so long.
Well, we did used to say about the Los Angeles Chargers. So it can actually.
Well, another Los Angeles team experienced that different sport, though, the Dodgers, but they won in 2020.
Right. But what I'm saying is just because a team is great for a period of time, like look at the Buffalo Bills in the 90s, right? They went to 4 straight Super Bowls. They lost all 4 of them. And every year, I'm sure the narrative at the time was, oh, they'll get it next year. They got back to the Super Bowl. Oh, they can't lose again.
Yeah,
They
but that's
did.
such a statistical anomaly. I mean, you could say that it's a curse or you can call it whatever you want, but in the long run, you can only be good for so long and get unlucky for so long before the merits triumph out.
Give or take. I mean, it depends on the team, right? I mean, for every team which we think has a great window, I think Kansas City still has like a good window, like going forward. As long as they have Mahomes, they'll be good. But that division is also pretty tough. I think at least he has to deal with Justin Herbert, who with a new coach maybe takes the next level. Denver still has Russell Wilson. It was a disaster this season, but with a new coach, with Sean Payton now there, how does that sort of turn out? Vegas still has like some appealing options. Maybe Aaron Rodgers goes there or someone. So all of a sudden, I wouldn't say it's just a very competitive league, right? Even with Tom Brady, right? There was a 10-year period between his 3rd and 4th Super Bowl. So even with the GOAT, there was a 10-year gap. So Mahomes is great, but I mean, it's just I don't know. I never will say anyone should be penciled in for 4 or 5 Super Bowls. I do agree he'll be in the mix every year, and this is not going to be his last Super Bowl appearance.
But the best of each generation is usually better than the best of the generation before it. That's just usually how every game goes, every sport, every kind of competition, because they study history and they learn from generations before them.
Well, I mean, if you compare LeBron James to Michael Jordan, that's a debate, but we'll see. I don't know. That said, I don't know if anyone will have the longevity to play 23 seasons like Brady did. So that will be an interesting discussion point anyway. We'll see. I don't know. Like it's too early to tell. Right now, I guess
We'll see if Patrick Mahomes has his own stringent regimen where he drinks grass juice every week or whatever the TB12 diet prescribes.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, I mean, in order for him to really be in the GOAT conversation, I will say like he needs to win 5, at least for him to even like warrant a conversation at that point. Because yeah, there's a ways to go, but I mean, it's doable. If he gets to 5, then I think then you have to have a serious discussion. But let him get his second one first. He has to get his second one, which he has a good chance to do it next Sunday. So I guess let's talk about the games now, the officiating. So both games kind of had questionable officiating. Obviously, Ujan, you mentioned the Devontae Smith. That probably should have been an incomplete pass. Kyle Shanahan didn't challenge it, and the Eagles scored a touchdown. And of course, the Bengals Chiefs game had a bunch of questionable calls. The biggest one was that 3rd down where they essentially played it. Apparently, a referee was trying to call off the play, and the play went on. The Chiefs got another chance. Still didn't convert it, so it didn't matter. But there was just all sorts of questionable calls in that game. The final play where Mahomes got hit, that was a roughing the passer call, or sorry, it was a late hit on unnecessary roughness. But there was also a holding play that probably should have canceled it out. So I don't know. I think overall there was some questionable officiating. Do you think officiating will be talked about this game? Because last year there was several questionable officiating moments. Like remember T. Higgins grabbed Jalen Ramsey by the face mask and threw him to the ground for a touchdown. Then of course on the final drive, the Rams had that kind of like Logan Wilson, I think on the Bengals was called for like a pass interference or a holding on like 3rd and goal when the Rams were making their final drive. So there were some pretty big like kind of officiating, kind of questionable officiating moments in that game. Will we be talking about that this time?
Well, I think that if we do talk about it, I hope it won't overshadow what's supposed to be a great game. That's the first thing I will say. Look, officials they will make some calls that they probably shouldn't make, and vice versa. There will be mistakes, but the NFL is gonna try to put like their best crew out there for the biggest game. This is like every moment or every year there's like all the major sports have their their show your showcase event like for like all the glory, right? This is the NFL's moment to shine, and I sure hope that I think overall the officiating has been questionable like throughout the season. I mean, it's not necessarily just the 2 weeks ago or last week, sorry, in the championship games. I think there have been questionable calls like throughout the regular season, throughout the I would say perhaps throughout the playoffs too. So it's very you just hope that it's a clean game, that there aren't so many talking points about oh this could have happened, like if this call weren't made, then they so whichever team would have got a touchdown. We're not talking about like so many point swings instead of because of a penalty. Obviously call like the blatant holdings, but this is the Super Bowl. I think that it ultimately should come down to who is the better team, and not, you know, oh, the officials like gave like so in whichever team more chances. Like, and I think that's kind of what happened, like in the last 2 minutes of Super Bowl 56. So hopefully we don't have a repeat of that in Super Bowl 57.
Yeah, I mean, the officiating in the AFC Championship was some of the calls were controversial, but especially like that last play, when Joseph Osai made that penalty against Mahomes, like after he was out of bounds, and that reduced a 60-yard field goal attempt to a 45-yard field goal attempt. Yes, it seemed questionable at the time, but I mean, when you look at the replay, I mean, he did what he did, and it sucks. If you're on the Bengals, but I mean, it is what it is, and that's just how the game goes. So you could say that it was an unfortunate break for the Bengals, but for the game to really come down to that play, a lot of things need to have happened before that for it to even been that close in the first place. So I really don't really, as much as it's tempting to say that the officiating played a huge role, I'm not really going to go and say that that's what made the difference, because it may appear that way given how the last few minutes of that game went. But if you look at the totality of the game, the Chiefs were overall still the slightly better team, even though Patrick Mahomes, I still maintain, got outplayed by Joe Burrow. But if something like that were to happen in the Super Bowl, I think that the plays would definitely be a lot less controversial, and I definitely do think that the instinct is going to be to move things to replay, and I think more and more plays are going to be challenged. I think that was an underused tool for both teams, so I would expect a lot of that. But in any good game that's played, that really shouldn't be a factor, and I don't think it is going to be a factor, because usually only the best referees are chosen to officiate Super Bowls. I don't know who the referees are going to be for the Super Bowl, but whoever they are, I have faith that they're going to do their job to the best of their ability.
Yeah, hopefully the referees don't make any questionable calls, and like some overly questionable calls. Obviously, sometimes it's judgment. And I think with the Cincinnati play, I don't think those side penalty is what people were upset about, because that was roughing the passer, or that was actually unnecessary roughness. But I think the play that people are most upset about, probably like one of them would be the third down redo that just sort of happened and gave Kansas City another chance. I think that was really like the one that really was like questionable, and like what was going on. Like Kansas City, it was like I think Kelsey, it would have been a fourth down, and Kansas City basically got another chance. Granted, it didn't matter in the end because they ended up punting it, but it was like plays like that which were kind of questionable. But I guess overall, we'll see. Hopefully, it's a clean game and nothing controversial sort of overshadows it. So let's just okay. The next question, kind of the last time the Eagles were in the Super Bowl back in 2017, they ran that famous Philly special trick play, and then last year the Bengals also ran a trick play, which saw Joe Mixon throw a touchdown pass to T. Higgins. So I guess the question is, will we be seeing any trick plays on Sunday?
I would say that if we were to see something like that, it's probably going to be the Chiefs against the Eagles. And here's what I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a play action. And what's going to result from that is that Mahomes is going to have the ball, right? While the Chiefs are pretending to rush the ball, and at the same time he throws a back pass, and a few laterals get around, and they catch the defense off guard, and from that there's a Hail Mary that results at the last second, and there you go. There's the trick play. That's the touchdown. I can't help but think that such a thing has probably been tried before, but I think that if you have to combine trick plays, you got to throw in a play action as well, and you also got to throw in some laterals, and you also got to throw in a Hail Mary. What more could you ask for? If you had to throw in a trick play, that's what it's going to be, if you ask me.
I think remember the last time Kansas City was in the Super Bowl, they had this trick play where I think everyone in the backfield just kind of spun around and shifted. And then finally it was, I think it was a fourth down, like in the first quarter. I can't remember who rushed.
That was against the 49ers, right? Not the.
Yeah, it was against the 49ers.
That wasn't their last Super Bowl. That was the one before the last.
Oh, sorry. No, or Super Bowl 54, I'll put it that way. They had that one play. There wasn't really much of a, trick play per se in Super Bowl 55, apart from like maybe like a end around with Scotty Miller, which didn't lead to anything, but I wouldn't necessarily call that a trick play per se. But I think I wouldn't put it against Andy Reid to do that. They had the one where in Week 18 where everybody in the huddle was like kind of going around in a circle. I thought that was kind of funny to watch, but of course there was no, and the fact that it led to a touchdown was pretty cool. Apart from the penalty, but I think if there is somebody to do it, it'll probably be Kansas City, most definitely. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's like, Travis Kelce taking a shotgun snap and perhaps throwing it to like Noah Gray or something like that. Because, if you recall in 2019, Travis Kelce rushed for a touchdown, and that came from a wildcat sort of formation. He just took the ball and ran it up the middle, if you will, against the Patriots in a regular season game. So, those kind of things can happen. And I don't expect it to be something, maybe there'll be like a double pass somewhere. But I think that just makes the most sense to me.
I actually think it's more likely to be from the Eagles side of things. I could totally see the way Nick Sirianni like coaches, like that he'd get Boston Scott or Miles Sanders to try to throw a pass to like Devontae Smith or someone. I think like they're not going to really try to expose Hurts as a passer because he's already dealing with like a sprained shoulder. So I don't think they're going to be doing that. But I could totally see a play where like Sanders or Scott tries to like throw a pass to someone, or maybe someone else. Maybe AJ Brown throws a completion to Devontae Smith. Actually, that's Super Bowl 52. There were actually two trick plays. Brady also had that dropped pass. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe both teams have something, but I would be surprised to see anything involve Mahomes catching a pass, just because Mahomes is also pretty gimpy right now. So I think the Chiefs don't want to like risk any type of unnecessary exposure like that.
The only other kind of trick play I can think of is some sort of a fake on fourth down where they pretend to punt and then they go for it. That's the only other kind of trick play I can think of.
That did happen.
And with more and more teams going for it on fourth
47.
down, I can't help but think that something like that might happen.
Philly special was actually on a fourth down play. So yeah, I mean, we'll see. Okay. So I guess question 9. So about the halftime show, it's Rihanna. So how are you guys? Are you guys excited about seeing Rihanna on the halftime show?
Yeah, I'm neutral about Rihanna. She's pretty good. I mean, but I have to say, no matter how good that this year's halftime show is, it's going to be hard to beat whatever we got last year. I think that's probably one for the ages.
Yeah, I'm kind of neutral about it. After all, it's just, a 13, 14-minute show that's put on. It's an extended halftime because they have to set up the stage and all that. So, and then of course take it apart just so that the second half can take place. So I think she has good songs. Admittedly, I haven't listened to Rihanna in a long time. So I will say that, I'm just looking forward to a good halftime show, and on top of what should be a good game.
Yeah, same here. I mean, Umbrella is one of our classics, right? From 2007. Makes me feel very old that song is almost 16 years old.
Oh, you think that's what I still remember the song Ponder Replay. So yeah, that shows you how old we all are.
Yeah, and then Lift Me Up is a classic from the recent Wakanda Forever movie. Very nice song. So I'm looking forward to it. Should be good. And I guess now, okay, we're at the 10th and final question. So Nirvana already kind of gave his Super Bowl pick. But yeah, who will win Super Bowl 57 next Sunday, and who wins MVP? So 2 parts. So for anyone when you guys answer, make sure you give an answer to both parts. So Rohan, let's hear your prediction first.
Sure. I think it's going to be relatively high scoring. As I said before, the over under on this one is 50, but I'm going to go the over on this one. I think it's going to be a 53-point game total, and I'm going 30-23 Eagles on this one. Jalen Hurts with the MVP. I mean, there are a lot of great players on the Eagles, but I think Jalen Hurts is going to do the job, and I think he's going to get most of the credit for it. The betting lines are essentially minus 125 to Philly to plus 105 for KC. And so that one is predictable, a pretty close game. But given the way the Eagles played against the Niners, I just think that they're the superior team, and I think they should, if not have their way in the Super Bowl, I think they should win pretty convincingly. 31-24 may not indicate that, but the Chiefs might stay competitive late, but I think the Eagles are going to pull it out.
Okay, so I do predict the Eagles win as well. It's usually pretty hard to have like anybody other than a quarterback as MVP. So Jalen Hurts will be my MVP. That being said, there are some exceptions. Santonio Holmes with the Super Bowl 43, Julian Edelman Super Bowl 53. So I will
Don't
say,
forget Malcolm Smith, Super Bowl 48.
yeah. But even when Malcolm Butler made the interception in Super Bowl 49, Brady was still the MVP. So, and Von Miller in Super Bowl 50, right? So,
And Cup last year.
yep, he had the winning touchdown. So, I mean, you can't really give the MVP just because of one play in a 4-quarter game, right? So, I think the Eagles are either going to win because of the play of Jalen Hurts, or I could see perhaps Miles Sanders even getting the getting MVP, depending on like how well the running game does against Kansas City. But I think I'm actually going to go with a higher scoring game than what the odds are suggesting. I'm going to say 31-24 Eagles in this one. So, which is over the 50 point total. So,
Wow, exactly everyone's prediction except flipped.
yeah, precisely. So I just think that it'll come down to like who has the ball last, and Mahomes can as much as we've been talking about how great he is, and what a career he's had so far. He is prone to mistakes. I mean, yes, they don't come as often, but against Buffalo week 6, has a chance with a minute to go down the field and win against Buffalo. He throws an interception with 50 seconds to go. So, I just think that it could be something like that, or, and then that leads to a Philadelphia winning touchdown. So 31-24 Eagles. Hurts to be MVP and hoist the Lombardi trophy.
Yeah, I mean, I've really kind of gotten back and forth on this one. It's like a very difficult choice. Both of them have proven themselves as the best in the league, and I know the Eagles are the current favorites, but also there's like the MVP curse, because the MVP in the regular season hasn't won a Super Bowl since 1999. So it has happened, just hasn't happened since 1999. But when Kurt Warner did it with the Rams. So, but that said, I don't know. I just feel the Chiefs are being very undervalued right now, and I don't know. It's going to be a little tough for me to do this, because I kind of do want Philadelphia to win this game, but I'm actually going with the Chiefs to win their second Super Bowl since 2019. I'm going Chiefs 30, Eagles 20, actually. So I think it'll be like a 10-point game. I mean, but I hope I'm wrong. So I do hope Philly wins. But yeah, I mean, that'll be our picks. So, I mean, I think all of us kind of have a similar score range. We're just sort of some variable of 30 with some variable of 20. All of us just have kind of a similar range, plus or minus a few points. So we'll see what happens. I guess I'm going by 2 possessions, though. But yeah. Anyways, yeah, that's going to be our episode this week. We will have a special post-game episode for the Super Bowl after probably the Sunday or Monday, but we will be back again to recap the Super Bowl. But enjoy the week, everyone. Enjoy all the lead up to the game. And yeah, we'll be back next weekend to recap the game. Enjoy your weekend, everyone, and have a good one.
All right. Peace.